everyone, my name is Qian Han and I will start our presentation with the first point, which is creating a culture of honesty, openness and assistance. As you can see, there are three major factors in fraud prevention, which is hiring honest people and providing fraud awareness training. And the next one is creating a positive work environment and providing an employee assistance program, which is EAP. Let us discuss our first point, hiring honest people and providing fraud awareness training. It is important in screening applicants effectively so that only honest employees are hired. In this case, the individuals with gambling, financial, drug, or past criminal problems should not be hired, or at least if they are hired, the adverse information about their backgrounds or characters should be known. So, the resume verification and certification are two tactics that organizations should use to prevent the fraud. In this case, one of the most important responsibilities of an employer is the hiring and retention of its employees, which means a poor hiring decision may not only lead to hiring employees who are dishonest, but also under a negligent hiring or retention claim. An example of negligent hiring and retention claims includes a trucking company liable for a wrongful death, which is resulting from one of its truckers driving drunk on the wrong side of the road and colliding with an oncoming car and killing the driver. The trucking company failed to verify the trucker's claimed perfect driving record, which would have shown numerous prior DUI violations. From here, we can say that no employer can totally immunize itself from hiring fraudulent employees or from the liabilities for claims asserting negligent hiring or the negligent retention. However, the employer that follows the following recommendations as part of its hiring and retention policies and practices will be successful as possible in avoiding frauds and negligent hiring claims. Other than that, we can verify all the information on the applicant's resume or the application using the following suggestion. The first one is require all the applicants to certify that all information on their application or the resume is accurate. The next one is train those involved in the hiring process to conduct thorough and skillful interviews. And the last one is use the industry-specific or other approaches as deemed necessary. For example, like credit checks, fingerprinting, drug tests, public record search, and honesty tests. Once people have been hired, it is important to have them participate in an employee awareness program, which we can say that this program might educate them about what is acceptable and unacceptable and what actions they should take if they see someone doing something improper. As a conclusion, it is important in hiring honest people and providing fraud awareness training because in most companies with successful fraud awareness programs have packaged fraud training with other sensitive issues important to the employees. The second factor important in a culture of honesty, openness, and assistance is creating a positive work environment. A positive work environments do not happen automatically, rather they must be cultivated. There are three elements that contribute to the creation of a positive work environment, thus making the work organization less vulnerable to fraud, which are the creating expectations about honesty through having a good corporate code of the conduct and conveying those expectations throughout the organization. And second, having an open door or easy access policies and having positive personal and operating procedures. Moreover, setting a proper expectation is a powerful tool in motivating employees to behave honestly. If expectations are unrealistically high or if they are not being taken seriously by the leaders, people will know it. Conversely, if a manager pretends that he has confidence and high expectations when he really has doubts, people will know that too. A second way to create a positive work environment is having open door or easy access policies. These open door policies prevent the fraud in two ways. First is many people commit fraud because they feel that they have no one to talk to. Sometimes when people keep their problems to themselves, they will lose their perspective about the appropriateness of actions and about the consequence of wrongdoing. From this, it will lead to making a decision to be dishonest. The second one is open door policies allow managers and others to become aware of employees' pressures, problems, and rationalizations. This awareness enables the managers to take the fraud prevention steps. A third way to create a positive work environment is having a positive personal and operating policies. From our research, we know that the positive personal and operating policies are important factors in contributing to high or low fraud environments. The uncertainty about job security, for example, has been associated with high fraud environments.
Hi, my name is Eng Seng Han. I will continue to present the third way to create a culture of honesty, openness, and assistance. As we have learned in Chapter 1 regarding the fraud triangle, some employees commit fraud due to pressure. So companies should provide the employees some effective way to deal with their personal pressure so that they can reduce the potential fraud. The most common method is by implementing employee assistance program. Employee Assistance Program is a works-based intervention program designed to help employees in solving problems. Employee Assistance Program help employees with issues like job care, relationship challenges, financial problems, wellness matters, and so on. This program supports employees with several programs and services, including team building, conflict resolution, wellness management, counseling, and other related services. Then we will talk about another fraud prevention is what we call eliminating opportunity for fraud to occur. In this session, we will cover 5 methods of eliminating fraud opportunity, which is having a good internal control, discouraging collusion between employee and customer or vendor, monitoring employee, creating expectation of punishment, and conducting proactive auditing. Firstly, having a good system of internal control. Control environment is the foundation for all the components of internal control, providing discipline and structure. And then this assessment process and set of control activity. Information or communication system with including a good accounting system is important in providing complete and valid information. Process of monitoring can include an internal auditing that are ensuring compliance with control activity. Now we will then focus on control activity in internal control. For example, segregation of duty, authorization, physical control, independent check, and documentation. The control activity can be divided into preventive control, which is the control activity that can prevent fraud to occur, and detective control, which is to detect the fraud after the employee commits fraud. There are 3 types of preventive control. The first one is segregation of duty, having more than one person required to complete a task or separating a task into several parts. For example, the person who is responsible for the inventory record keeping should not be the same person who is responsible for physical control of the inventory. Secondly, authorization. Authorization is a security mechanism of transaction and activity to get the approval from authorized person. For example, there should be an authorization process for purchase order by authorized person before the purchase order sent to the supplier. Another preventive control is physical control. Physical control provides safeguard to the access, prohibited the access to the system record. For example, implementing employee ID card and fingerprint system to determine the user that can access to the system or any company asset. Now, we will talk about detective control. Firstly, independent checks are carried out by employees who did not do the work being checked. For example, an internal auditor audits the financial statement prepared by the accounting department. Secondly, documentation. A proper documentation provides evidence to prove that the information in financial statements are accurate. For example, all the financial documents should have their own numbering, and all these documents need to be kept properly to make sure that all the transactions can be supported by related documents. Another way to eliminate opportunity for fraud to occur is discouraging collusion between employees and others and alerting vendor and customer regarding company policy. Fraud that involve collusion are usually difficult to detect. Also, this type of fraud are usually take time to develop because they need to know others well enough to trust that they will cooperate in committing fraud. Purchase and sale fraud are most common examples. Sometimes, innocent vendor and customer are drawn into this type of fraud as they feel that they will lose the business relationship if they don't participate in committing fraud. So, to prevent this type of fraud, the company should send a periodic letter to vendor or customer to inform them regarding the company policy. Not only that, printing a right to audit term on the back of purchase invoice can alert the vendor that the company will audit the book. That's all for me.
Hi, I'm Eng Su Ting. I will continue another three method for eliminating opportunity for frauds to occur. So the third method is monitoring employee and provide a whistleblowing system. Cross-monitoring helps to detect flaws in an organization earlier because employees know others are watching. Before my further explanation, let us see a case of margarines. From this case, we can see that the salary of margarines never more than $22,000 per year. But she had done all of this action. For example, she had purchased and was currently driving the following car, which is Rolls-Royce, Audi, and so on. She also purchased expensive clothes, diamond, and purchased a glass art collection costing over 1.5 million. We can see that her lifestyle was inconsistent with her level of earning. So, is it she doing some improper method? Section 307 of Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002 requests all the public company to have a whistleblowing system that make it easy for the employee and other to report the suspension activity. A good whistleblowing system is one of the most effective way to prevent frauds. When employees know that there is no compulsory way to monitor each other and report suspended frauds, they are less willing to participate in dishonest behavior. Deloitte, one of the big four CPA firms, has concluded that the four reasons why some systems fail. First, lack of anonymity. Second, poor culture. Third, unclear policy of an organization. And the last, lack of awareness. Consistent this finding, research shows that there are four elements make an effective whistleblowing program, which are anonymity, independence, accessibility, and follow-up. First, anonymity. Employees must be ensured that they can report suspended incident of misconduct without fear of retribution. Means company must hide the identity of a whistleblower, although this may result in a proportion of slightly bad report, but it can be easily verified through a follow-up investigation of the reported incidents. Second, independence. Employees feel more comfortable when they report the misconduct to an independent party that are unrelated to the organization or the party involving in the misconduct. Means Employees will prefer to report the misconduct to an independent party compared to their company. Third, accessibility. Employees must have several different channels to report the improper behavior. For example, telephone, email, online, or mail. This ensures that all the employees, including entry-level, manager, on-site, off-site, can anonymously make a report using the channel that's suitable for them. 4. Follow-up. Incident reported through the whistleblowing system must be followed up and correcting action must be taken when necessary. This will prove the benefit the system and encourage further reporting of misconduct. It is not only companies in the US that have whistleblowing system, but also government agency and forest company in major countries, including Korea. Furthermore, the next factor is creating an expectation of punishment. Creating an expectation of punishment. Fraud perpetrators are usually first-time offenders. When they are forced to inform their loved one they have committed fraud and has been caught, they will suffer great embarrassment. This is because when employees are fired, they won't be tell their family the real reason why they are fired. Here, the real punishment is to having to tell their family members and friends about their dishonest behavior. A strong persecution policy that is well publicized let the employee know that dishonest behavior will be harshly punished. Then not everyone is dishonest, and authorizing borrowing from the company will not be tolerated. A strong policy of punishment help eliminate rationalization like a good code of ethics that convert expectation. The last method for eliminating opportunity for frauds to occur is conducting proactive fraud auditing. Very few organizations actively audit for frauds. Rather, their auditors are willing to conduct financial, operational, and compliance audit, and they only investigate frauds only when symptoms are severe to suspect frauds. Organizations that proactively audit for frauds create awareness among the employees. The employees' actions are subject to review at any time. As will be discussed in Chapter 5, which is under fraud detection, group fraud auditing involves four steps. Step 1. Identify fraud risk exposures. Step 2. Identify the fraud symptom of each exposure. Step 3. Building audit programs to proactively look for the symptom and exposure. And Step 5. Investigating fraud symptom identified. For example, one company decided to use proactive computer auditing technique to compare the employees' handphone number with the Windows handphone number. The search found that more than 1,000 instances of handphone number matchings. This indicated that the company was purchasing goods and services from employees. There was a direct conflict of interest. Even CPA firm has become very serious about proactive auditing for frauds. Part of this motivation comes from Statement on Auditing Standard number 99, Consideration of Frauds in a Financial Statement Audits. SAS number 99 was issued because the Auditing Standard Board believed that by forcing auditor in order to clearly consider and brainstorm about frauds, the possibility of auditor detecting material misstatement due to frauds in a financial statement audit will be increased. And then Chapter 6 will be introduce the use of technology to proactively detect the frauds. Now, you only know that the proactive frauds detection can not only catch the early frauds, but it also acts a powerful detector when the employee and others know that an organization is always searching for possible frauds. Last but not least, I believe that when fraud opportunities are eliminated, it takes more pressure and rationalization for frauds to be committed. That's all from me. Thank you.
So I'll continue my part with the last subtopic in this chapter, which is comprehensive approach to fight fraud. As my team member explained before, fraud is prevented and reduced by first creating a culture of honesty, openness, and assistance. So second is by eliminating the fraud opportunity in the organization. For those organizations who employ this technique and step in the company will definitely reduce the fraud problems compared to the company who do not. However, comprehensive approach to fight fraud is not only focused on preventing fraud. It is also combined prevention with detection, investigation, and follow-up. One of the most bigger issue faced by most of the company is among the organization, there is no one who has the most responsibility for fraud prevention. In such situation, this is definitely a discouraging commentary on the status of fraud prevention. This is because fraud is an extremely costly problem for the organization. Yet, the responsibility for fraud detection and prevention in the organization is often seen as belonging to someone else. So for corporate security officials, they believe that their roles in this is only investigation. They will pursue reported fraud. They don't envision that their roles as including prevention or detection. So for manager, they will usually perceive running the business as their main responsibility, and normally they will seldom or even acknowledge the possibility that fraud could happen or occur in their organization. So actually, employees who are usually in the best position to prevent and detect fraud. However, they often do not know what to do or whom to talk to when they have suspicion. And also, they will feel that it is unethical or unwise to blow the whistle or to report their colleague. So due to this non-ownership attitude regarding fraud is prevalent in most business. However, fraud is like the one described below will occur continuously. So before I explain more details about the model in fighting fraud, let us take a look on the cases about Jerry and his company, Occurrence Airline. So enjoy! Hi, welcome back. So now I'd like to continue with the organizations and fraud of the current model. So many organizations do not have a proactive approach to deal with fraud and reduce fraudulent behavior. So since fraud prevention is not emphasized in many companies, there is significant confusion about who has responsibility for the current model that most organizations typically use for dealing with fraud, often by default. So the model is characterized by 4 stages, which are fraud incident, investigation, action, and resolution. So now we'll look on stage 1, which is fraud incident. So fraud incident is not preceded by formal awareness training or other prevention measurements. So once the incident occurs, the firm switches into a crisis mode. This is because of 5 reasons. The first one will be it needs to identify the perpetrators. Second, wants to avoid publicity. Third, wants to attempt to recover the losses. Fourth, want to minimize the overall impact of the occurrence on the organization. The fifth is caught up in the emotions of the crisis. Stage 2 is investigation. This is where security and internal audit usually become involved. So for most of the investigative work, it will involve interviewing and document examination. Investigation may or may not lead to resolution, and it can take extensive time and might be costly. In stage 3, after the investigation has been completed, the company must decide what action to take regarding the perpetrators. So the choices are: first, take no action; second, terminate or transfer only; lastly, terminate and seek for prosecution. We have come to the last stage of the current model, which is stage 4. This stage involves closing the file, tying together loose ends, replacing the employee, perhaps implementing some new control, and otherwise resolving the problems. So once these 4 stages are completed, no further action is taken until another fraud occurs. With this model, fraud will never decrease. Instead, it will become a recurring problem. I'll introduce another better fraud fighting approach, which is sound organizations minimal fraud. As you can see, there are 6 elements included in this model. So let's take a look detailedly on each of the elements. The first element of this model is the management team should set a positive tone at the top. Creating a positive tone involves 2 steps. The first step is effective fraud teaching and training is conducted throughout the organization, and a well-defined corporate code of conduct is promoted in the organization. Second is setting a proper example or modeling appropriate management behavior. The management team should more focus on we want to know when someone who commits fraud isn't prosecuted. The second element is educating employees and others about the seriousness of fraud and informing them what to do if fraud is suspected. Education includes instructing vendors and other outsiders, not just employees. Fraud awareness training helps to prevent fraud and ensure that fraud that do occur are detected at early stage. The third fraud fighting element involves integrity risk assessment and having a good internal control system. It is important to have a good system of control, means that there will be an explicit study of all fraud and why they occur. This goes together with implementation of control activity necessary to prevent the occurrence of the same type of fraud in the future. Obviously, additional or new control must meet the cost-effectiveness test based on an analysis of costs and benefits. The fourth element includes having a system of reporting and monitoring. The lack of reporting is unfortunate because employees are in the best position to recognize dishonest behavior or to question red flags, which they are more familiar than anyone else. Monitoring involves having internal auditor, external auditor, and even management performing audits and review. Effective prevention of fraud usually involves effort to create in the mind of potential perpetrators that their activity will be uncovered. Reporting also involves publishing facts in this, personalizing the case and publishing it internally in a security newsletter or a memo that is distributed to auditor, security personnel, and appropriate management and employee. The fifth element in this fraud fighting approach is having proactive fraud detection method in place. No matter how good fraud prevention efforts are, some fraud will still be committed. And since fraud grows dramatically over time, it's important to detect fraud earlier. Proactive fraud detection methods are not only effective in detecting fraud, but knowledge of their use is a good fraud deterrent. The final element involved is having effective investigation and follow-up when fraud occurs. Effective investigation means an organization will have specific formal fraud policy stating who will carry out all the elements of an investigation. The investigation procedures must be well established. This stage also involves having present policy regarding follow-up action against the perpetrators. A strong prosecution policy must have the support of top managers, and they must be informed if someone commits fraud and is not prosecuted. Organizations that take a tough prosecution stand will reduce the number of future fraud significantly. As stated previously, the single greatest factor in deterring dishonest acts is the fear of punishment. Companies with successful prosecution policy have developed their own internal investigation expert. They recognize that in order to obtain cooperation from law enforcement officers and the justice system, it is almost always necessary to conduct a thorough and complete investigation before the overworked law enforcement agency and criminal justice system can accommodate the prosecution. That's all from us. Thank you.